I am going to walk you through how to provision a HarberDB instance in a Kubernetes cluster using Ametnes Cloud. Ametnes Cloud can be used to as a service that helps you manage cloud native data services in multiple different Kubernetes clusters located wherever you want them to be located. So I'm going to log into the console. And then in here, the first thing to do is you would need to have installed the Ametnes Cloud Agent in your Kubernetes cluster. Then once it's installed, you identify it using an ID location that you, so basically you create a location here which will give you a unique ID, and that unique ID has to be used when you deploy the Ametnes Cloud Agent in your Kubernetes cluster. So once this is already done for us, so we're going to use an already existing Kubernetes cluster. And the next thing to do is in for us to be able to access the HarberDB instance, we need to create a load balancer that will expose the HarberDB instance. So let's do that first. And then select the location. That's the only active one. So we'll then say network AWS test. Let's use a pre-existing name. Then far away. So we'll wait for that to complete. Okay, now we have a load balancer created for us in our cluster, which is identified as that. We chose to name it a Ametnes EUW1. So the next thing to do is let's go into services and then click on new. So we are presented with the network selection page. And then so we are going to select the network that we just created, which is this one. Click next, and then we will be presented with the input page to enter all the details. So we're going to select the HarberDB 4.0, and then we'll give it a name, say Harper, one of those that we used before. And we require it to give it some CPU, so we're going to give it 2 CPUs and give it 4 gig of storage. And then we input the mandatory fields, and then we click on next. Okay, so it takes a bit of a while to provision, so we'll just keep refreshing. Okay, so now we've got a HarberDB instance ready for us to use. So let's go into admin. So we go into admin. This allows us to get access to the endpoint with which to reach our HarberDB instance. And in here, I can click on reveal password, so that password will get revealed for us. So the first thing we're going to do is let's copy this endpoint, and then I've got some of these already these variables that I've used before, so I'm going to copy this endpoint, paste it in there. So we want the host. So the endpoint will be, I'm going to copy these end credentials. So it's going to be admin user. uses basic auth to authenticate. So admin user and admin user there, and then next thing to do is export the headers. Okay, so we've got those in our environment. So then next thing to do is let's try out some operations on HarberDB. So we'll go into the documentation. Let's just copy some of these payloads and see what Harper does for us. So we'll paste this here. Okay, so we are missing missing some single quotes at the end. Okay, so that tells us there's nothing to describe. So we'll then go ahead and let's create a schema. Let's copy this and again, so we'll use this in here. Okay, then copy the schema. Okay, so that schema has been created. Now, if we run the describe all again, yeah, we should have a dev schema with no tables in it, which is all good. So the next thing to do is let's create a table. And how is that done? So we are going to copy this payload, and then we'll use this copy, and then we are going to create a table called breed. Okay, so that's been successfully created for us, and again, once we describe all, we should be able to see that we've got a schema dev with a table breed in it, okay, and some metadata as you'll see there. We could actually pipe this into JQ to see it in a much more human readable, much better human readable format. Yeah, there we go. So a few attributes are added for us immediately or automatically by HarberDB. Update time, create time, which I think is cool. So the next operation will be to load some data, and one that I thought would be a good one to use is this one. So we've got an operation to load some data directly from a URL CSV data. So we'll go back onto this bit and then walk that in there. Okay, and it tells us that there's a job that has started to run. So it runs in the background from what I can see. So let's go in here and see if we're able to get some information on that job. So on how the job is progressing. So put that in there, copy the job ID. Yep, and that tells us the job has successfully completed. As you can see, 350 records have been uploaded for us, which is a good sign. So what do we then want to do? Let's perform some SQL operations on that data. Going to select and then copy this. So again, we use the find this empty command that can help us quickly craft our SQL. So we want the breed, and there you go. So we've got some data in there. We could pipe this into JQ, which makes it easy to read for the human eye. JQ. Okay, right. So there you go. And yeah, so if you want to know more about HarberDB, just visit the HarberDB website, which I think it's got some fairly detailed documentation. HarberDB is such a good product. It can be used for much more. It's got much more capabilities such as custom functions, clustering, support for low latency applications. So check it out when you get a chance. Also, Ametnes Cloud can be used to easily to allow it to manage to ease the pain of managing your cloud native data services in Kubernetes across multiple cloud providers, as well as multiple Kubernetes versions. So there are other data services that you can provision within Ametnes Cloud. So check it out when you get a chance. That's it. Thank you.